is here in class. I just hope and trust that we are going to have quite a number of people joining either online, and then we'll be in a position to have a bigger class. So my name is Dr. Reason. I'm a lecturer of marketing, logistics, and supply chain, and I'm also a lecturer for research. So in our discussion today, we are going to discuss a quite pertinent issue when it comes to research, especially in the academic field. Hello, welcome. Just take a seat. We are going to discuss about issues to do with secondary data. You've realized that when students are submitting their research, there's a lot of talk about secondary data. And in this class, I now want to unpack some of the issues or discussions surrounding what really do we mean when we are talking about secondary data? What really do we mean, and how can you use secondary data in any research? So the layout of my discussion here is I'm going to give you an overview of what is secondary data analysis. I'm also going to discuss about understanding and preparing secondary data. I give you an overview of sampling, how to analyze secondary data, and most probably provide some illustrations on secondary data aspects. Then what is secondary data? In a broader sense, analysis of collected data which was collected by someone else. You are analyzing data which was collected by someone else. So this secondary data can come in two ways. Secondary data can be qualitative, and secondary data can be quantitative. You can collect data from someone else in the form of literature. I think this is a lot of data which students are usually exposed to, because when you are writing your literature review, you are taking secondary data from other scholars in your field. Then it can also come in form of what are called the data sets. There is a lot of data which is out there. If you go to institutions like World Health Organization, World Bank, even government institutions, they have got data, most probably about consumption patterns in Oman. You can just go to the ministry and tell them that I want this information regarding maybe purchasing behavior. So all that information is called secondary data. So you can now take that secondary data and use it in your research. You can take that secondary data and try to analyze that data, and most probably try to bring some issues regarding that data. Analysis of secondary data, where secondary data can include any data that are examined to answer a research question other than the questions for which the data were initially collected. Remember, I'm indicating to you that you can go and take data from different ways, but a lot of data sets. I'm actually going to share you some of the data sets which I have here. Where I'm doing a certain course with an organization which is called Tableau. So if you are doing Tableau using the data camp, they will give you a lot of data sets so that you are in a position to create your own visualization. In contrast to primary data analysis, in which same individual team of researchers designs, collects, and analyzes data. So we have got what is called secondary data. We have got what is primary data. Primary data is the data which you collect. Like, I understand that you are internship students. You are currently doing your own research. You design your questionnaire, you design your interview guides, you go and collect your data. That is your own data which you are collecting to answer certain research objectives, which you have already indicated or which you have already stated. So these are two sets of data. But what you may now need to know is secondary data and primary data, in most cases, they work together. You can bring in your secondary data to support your primary data. In most cases, especially when you are now discussing your results, which is when it is you are doing your internship, that is most probably your chapter 4, where you are now analyzing your primary data, the information which you got from your questionnaires. You now want to support it with secondary data. It usually works like that in any academic research. Do you have any questions so far? Any issues arising from the discussion? Because I would be happy if we do this as a discussion. Mohammed?
Research, once we are thinking about the companies they join listings, they're not open to everyone to give their data. And it's one of the issues, problem and barriers in for researchers. And hopefully this culture, this behavior of the companies changing by time. Because they be open of the sources of data.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. It's quite an important, it's quite an important observation that in most cases, companies are not willing to share their data. And this is the reason why when you are now going to collect data, you are supposed to, it's okay. You are supposed to create what is called a consent letter. You are supposed to have a consent letter from Middle East College, so that when you go there, you introduce yourself. Sometimes you can get resistance. They may not be willing to share their data. But what is quite important now is there are open sources of data which are available on the internet, which you can just go download them. You go to the Statista, you download. You go to United Nations website, you download. You go to World Health Organization. Like you want to understand COVID-19 pandemic statistics, they are available online. So there are open sources of data which students can utilize to understand some of these different aspects or different issues. And we are very privileged here at Middle East College. We do have Dr. Prakash. He's in a position, if you are going to go to Dr. Prakash with secondary quantitative data, he is in a position to make the analysis and even make predictions, because you are in a position also to predict, to make some predictions, maybe depending on spending, what kind of data you may be having at any given moment. Do you have any questions? I hope, Mohammed, I managed to answer your question properly. Okay. What are secondary data, or where does it come from? Large government funded databases, they focus on this, will be the focus of this presentation. Universities and college records. If you go today to the university records, you want to understand most probably the number of students which have been enrolled by Middle East College since inception. That data is there. The number of students who graduated, the number of male students, the number of female students, the number of teachers. That data is available in the institution. So institutions also, they are also custodians of secondary data. Different states, journal supplements, authors' websites, available for a seemingly unlimited number of subject areas. Quantitative or quantitative data can be found in the form of secondary data in any research. So I want you now to have this impression that when we are talking about secondary data, it is not only about literature. It is also about the quantitative aspect of data. You will realize that when you are also presenting your problem statement, depending on the kind of question which you are dealing with, you may also want to incorporate quantitative data, which may want now to come to substantiate the existence of a certain problem in any research. Let me proceed. Where can I find secondary data? Here I have got links which I've provided. http data.gov.om. This is Omani. Omani portal government index open data. Open data, Omani, World Bank country, Oman, World Bank data sets. So if you go and to all these links, you are in a position to download data. You are in a position, maybe you want to see population growth. You want to see income. You want to see per capita income. You want to see population, most probably by religion. You want to see population by age. All these different aspects. We do have quite a number of open sources of data, which you can use as a student of research, which you can use and most probably take this data, try to present it on an Excel sheet, try to calculate some relationships on the data so that you are in a position to fulfill certain objectives which may be aligned to your area of study. Examples of large secondary data sets for education and social sciences research. These are also some of the examples which you can utilize. So what are the advantages of secondary data analysis? Study design and data collection already exists, so it saves time and money. Collection of data is it needs a lot of money. It needs a lot of time. I think you have witnessed that when you are collecting data today. So for you, when you are utilizing already existing data sets, it saves you time, it saves you money, because you will not now go outside and most probably try to design the questionnaire, analyze the data, look for statisticians to do your analysis. Access to international cross-historical data that would otherwise take several years and millions of dollars to collect. If you utilize secondary data, you expose yourself to a lot of data sets. Ideal for use in a classroom examples. You can actually utilize these different data sets. Data may also be of high quality, especially when you are dealing with government departments. You are dealing with these international organizations like World Bank. The data may be of high quality. Studies funded by the government generally involve like samples that are more representative of the target population. Data sets often contain considerable breadth and thousands of variables. Currently, I was doing a research for the past 2 years. I was doing a research for the International Telecommunications Union in COMESA. So the COMESA was funding, International Telecommunications was funding that research. After this research, I've managed to collect a lot of data sets for countries in COMESA, 17 countries. I now do have the data. I now have got the variables. I now have got a lot of information regarding that data sets. So basically, this is how you can utilize different kinds of data. What are the disadvantages of secondary data analysis? Study designs and data collection already completed. Data may not facilitate particular research questions. Information regarding study design and data collection procedures may not be available. Remember, you are only going to take data which is already available. So you may not be aware of the research designs which were used. You may also not be aware of the research objectives which wanted to be fulfilled with that data. So that secondary data may not fit well, most probably in the study which you may want to go and fulfill. Data may potentially lack depth. The greater the breadth of and the harder it is more for any construct in depth. Construct may be operationally defined by a single survey. And also post-work attempts to construct measurement models may be unsuccessful. What model, the models which you may want to design may not be successful, because remember, this data was not collected for your own purpose. It was collected for some purposes. So most probably, if you want to do some modeling of that data, you may not be in a position to get the much needed models or some regressions which you may want to do to fulfill a certain agenda or a certain problem. There is now need to have what we call understanding and preparation of secondary data. Of course, we have realized that you have got a data set. You have managed to go and collect a data set, but that data set does not mean anything, does not mean sense. So you may now need to prepare the data set. You may now need to familiarize yourself with the original data sets. To whom are the results generalized? How are the missing data handled? What are the appropriate analysis? So before you go to make a conclusion regarding secondary data, these are some of the questions which you may want to ask yourself. Because data sets, they may need to be cleaned so that at the end of the day, you are in a position to make sense. You are in a position to answer the research objectives which you want to answer, so that they relate to what you really need to solve, the problem which is at hand. You may also want to understand the variables which may be existing at any given moment. Certain fields or departments may place less value on secondary data analysis, may require knowledge of the survey statistics methods, which is not generally provided by basic graduate statistical courses. Familiarize yourself with the original study of the study and the data. You may need to examine the questionnaires or the samples which were used during that study. Interview questions may be modified across time. So if you are relying a lot on secondary data, these are some of the limitations or disadvantages which you may usually face. And you may need now to go back to understand the circumstances in which the secondary data was collected. How do you prepare secondary data? You may need to get a data, most probably a document. Then you may need to create, or you may need to create what is called a code book. You may need to code that data. You may need to transfer that data to certain files, or you are creating some codes, you are creating some variables. Then you may need also to alter the original data so that it fits in your data, in the information or in the research which you want to carry out. Then you may need to address the missing data, because some of the variables may not be available. So you may need to address those missing data. Then you may need to recode those variables so that they suit the research which you are carrying out. So secondary data, the most important aspect is secondary data may not make sense by the fact that it is only available. You may need to clean it. You may need to try to make sense of these different variables. You may need to come to create new variables, or you may need to go and recreate new variables which suit your research objectives. Do you have any questions so far before we get into the aspect of sampling design? Any questions for those who are online? Ideally, we want a sample that is perfectly representative of our target population. We want to use the sample results to make inferences and generalize about our large population. You may use probability sampling, which is aligned to most probably quantitative sampling. You can use simple random sampling. You can also use random sampling. I'm not going to get into these aspects of sampling, the different sampling methods which you can use. You can also go and use stratified random sampling and the different kinds of sampling techniques. There are formulas which you can use to calculate the sample size. Some of these sampling methods, they may say maybe 10% of the population. Some may say the sample size is supposed to be 20%, depending on the technique which you are going to use. Or you can try to divide the population into different stratas so that you are in a position to achieve what you want to achieve with a certain research agenda. So this is an example of simple random sampling, cluster sampling, stratified sampling, which you can use to clean your data. Based on the research questions, identify the appropriate statistical analysis. For you to be in a position to know how to analyze data, you need to understand the research questions. There are certain softwares which are available to analyze data. We can use softwares such as Excel. You may use software such as Stata. You may also go and carry out some modeling using regression, logit, analysis, so that you are in a position to analyze. So you need now to select the appropriate software to analyze your data, come up with some descriptive statistical analysis, link most probably your primary data, and be in a position to interpret the different data. You can use Atlas TI. When you are using the qualitative data analysis, you can use thematic analysis. There are quite a number of statistics which you can do, or quite a number of softwares. We do have some softwares such as NVivo, which can be used to analyze data. So data analysis can be done in both qualitative way, can be done in both quantitative way, using certain statistical methods or statistical models which may be available in any given study. Do you have any questions, any issues regarding my presentation on secondary data analysis? Do you have any questions, any issues? Okay, so this is another example of a software which you can also use in analyzing data. This software is called Tableau. It's called Tableau. You can use it to make some comparisons. You can use it to make your analysis. Most probably you may want to check on the average. This is a drag and drop kind of software. Come here, you drop. Most probably you want to understand the average. This diagram here is showing the birth rates over a period of time. So you want to understand the average time. You just click and drop. Once you upload a certain data set into this software, which is called Tableau, most probably you can remove this. You may want most probably to see an average. This one is a drag and drop. So once you upload your data set on Tableau, you are in a position to carry out your different analysis. You may want most probably to come up with a trend analysis, linear trend analysis about the birth rates. You want to see how these birth rates over a period of time from 2021 to 2018, it can show you that there is a positive trend of these different birth rates. So you can carry out quite a number of different analysis using different softwares. So this is Tableau, which you can also use to carry out your data analysis in any given moment. We have got softwares like ARA statistics. We have got different applications. We have got different softwares which are also used in Stata to analyze different kinds of data. This is another example of also using Tableau. Here, this was an analysis of data using different formats. So here, most probably, I may want to change the color of my data presentation here. I may also maybe want to change the size of the circles. This one is a symbol. These are called geomaps. These are geomaps for China, which is showing stomach cancer, the number, the population growth of stomach cancer in China. This was in Germany, in different countries. In Oman, it's also given all these statistics. So this is also an example of how you can utilize these different softwares and different applications. You can most probably you want to put this information in charts. You can also present this information as charts. You can also present this information using different formats. There are quite a number of formats which you can use to present this information. You may want to present it in circles. Each and every country will be represented. You can want to see some labels. You can also show the labels in each and every country. You may want to show the names in each and every country, depending on the data which you may want to use. So once you upload your data in Tableau, it can now present you are now in a position to see all this information. I hope those who are online are in a position to see the Tableau document which I'm actually sharing. So do you have any questions on secondary data analysis? Those who are online, do you have any questions, any issues, any additions and subtractions before we call it a day? Thank you very much, Aisha. Do you have any questions? Those who are online.
No,
thank you very much for those who come online. I wish you all the best in your study, in your research. If you do have some questions, or if you do have some illustrations which you may want me to provide for some softwares, for some applications, feel free to come to my office, or you can book an appointment so that I can provide you with some insights regarding secondary data analysis issues. You have a good day.